So, you're born in 356 BCE in Pella, Macedonia, into one of the most dysfunctional royal families in history. Your dad, Philip II, is a tactical genius and military powerhouse, but he's also got a knack for starting wars and extramarital affairs. And your mom, Olympias, she practices mysticism, talks to snakes, and convinces you that your real dad is Zeus. You grow up watching court drama unfold like a live-action Greek tragedy. Olympias fills your head with stories about your divine destiny, while Philip pushes you to surpass him in every way possible. No pressure, right? At age 13, your dad hires a teacher to be your tutor. This is the Aristotle, the guy who basically invented logic and philosophy. For 3 years, he drills you on everything: politics, ethics, science, and even medicine. But it's not all scrolls and lectures. Aristotle teaches you to introduce Greek culture to the people you conquer without making them hate your guts. It's a crash course in leadership. Meanwhile, you're training with Leonidas, a grizzled veteran who makes you run, fight, and ride horses until you're ready to drop. He's all about discipline and toughness, which is ironic because he can't discipline you out of your stubbornness. At one point, you tame Bucephalus, a horse everyone else thinks is untamable, because you figure out it's scared of its shadow. Your dad is so impressed, he says, "Macedonia is too small for you. You'll need to conquer a bigger kingdom." Gee, thanks, Dad. But there's more to your childhood than just books and battle drills. You're obsessed with Achilles, the hero of the Iliad. You sleep with a copy of the Iliad under your pillow and dream of eternal glory. Olympias feeds this obsession, telling you that, like Achilles, you're destined for greatness. The problem: Achilles' story ends in tragedy, but no one tells you that part. By the time you're a teenager, you're already leading troops in battle. Your dad takes you on campaigns, and you learn firsthand how to command an army and crush your enemies. But the court politics are just as brutal as the battlefield. Philip marries a younger woman, Cleopatra Eurydice, and Olympias flips out. Suddenly, you're caught in the crossfire of a royal soap opera. When Philip is assassinated at a wedding, people start whispering that Olympias had a hand in it. You don't know for sure, but you do know one thing: it's your time. At 20 years old, you're crowned king. Sounds cool, right? But in reality, you've inherited a kingdom surrounded by enemies, a court full of rivals, and a legacy you're expected to surpass. Welcome to the pressure cooker that is your life. After your father is assassinated, rivals pop up like weeds. Your cousin Amyntas IV, executed. 2 princes from Lyncestis, gone. Even your mum, Olympias, isn't pulling punches. She burns Philip's young wife and her baby alive. Ruthless, but effective. But the chaos doesn't stop there. The Greek city-states see Philip's death as their chance to rebel. Athens, Thebes, and Thessaly think they can overthrow you. Big mistake. You march south with 3,000 cavalry, outmaneuver the Thessalians, and force their surrender. When Thebes revolts, you don't just crush them, you annihilate them. You kill 6,000 people, enslave 30,000 more, and destroy the city so thoroughly that the only thing you spare is the poet Pindar's house. Why? Because you're a fan of his work. Ruthless and cultured, the message is clear: you're not Philip's kid anymore. You're Alexander the Conqueror, and nobody messes with you. To seal the deal, you call a meeting in Corinth, where you convince the Greek city-states to join your crusade against Persia. You call it revenge for the Persian invasions of Greece, but let's be real, it's about proving you're better than your dad. You start with Asia Minor, crossing the Hellespont with an army of 30,000 infantry and 5,000 cavalry. At the Battle of Granicus, you lead a reckless charge straight into Persian lines. Your generals think you're crazy, but it works. You win, and the Persian satraps are either dead or running for their lives. It's your first big victory, and you're just getting started. Next, you face King Darius III at the Battle of Issus. Darius shows up with an army that makes yours look like a scout troop, but numbers don't mean much when your strategy is brilliant. You trap Darius between a river and the mountains, forcing him into a narrow battlefield where his massive army can't maneuver. You personally lead the companion cavalry in a charge that sends the Persian king running for his life. He abandons his family in his escape, so you take them prisoner. Classy move, Darius. Darius. After Issus, you march south along the coast, systematically dismantling Persia's naval bases. The siege of Tyre takes 7 brutal months. The city's defenders think they're safe on an island, but you build a causeway across the water because impossible isn't in your vocabulary. When the city finally falls, you're not in a forgiving mood. You crucify 2,000 survivors and sell the rest into slavery. Harsh, sure, but it sends a message. Resistance is futile. By the time you reach Egypt, people are practically rolling out the red carpet. They're sick of Persian rule and welcome you as a liberator. You visit the Oracle of Siwa, where a priest calls you son of Zeus Ammon. Do you believe it? Maybe. Or maybe you just see it as a great PR move. Either way, it solidifies your divine status. Now you head back to Persia for the main event. Darius has pulled out all the stops, bringing an army so big it stretches across the horizon. He even has war chariots fitted with scythes on the wheels. Intimidating? Sure, but you've already calculated every move. You fake a retreat, drawing the Persians into a trap, then unleash a coordinated assault that breaks their lines. Darius flees again, and this time, his own men kill him. By now, you're not just the king of Macedonia, you're the ruler of the Persian Empire. You've achieved what your father only dreamed of, but instead of resting on your laurels, you decide to keep going. Why stop now? By the time you finish conquering Persia, you're on top of the world. But on top isn't enough for you. You want to push further east into lands your men have only heard of in myths. Next stop? Central Asia. This is where the real grind begins. Conquering the Persian Empire was hard, but Central Asia, it's a logistical nightmare. You're fighting guerrilla warfare against tribes who know the terrain like the back of their hands. The local satraps play nice at first, but as soon as you turn your back, they rebel. Take Satybarzani's of Arya. He pretends to surrender, then stabs you in the back. You crush him, of course, but it's exhausting. Then there's the siege of Aornos, a fortress so high up on a mountain that even Heracles supposedly failed to capture it. Naturally, you take that as a personal challenge. After days of brutal fighting, you pull off the impossible and capture it. It's a major flex, but your men are starting to wonder if you've got something to prove. While you're dealing with rebels, you're also trying to keep your army together. Your Macedonian troops are grumbling about how you're treating Persian soldiers like equals. You've started wearing Persian clothes, adopting their customs, and appointing Persians to high-ranking positions. To you, it's all about cultural integration, uniting your empire. But to your men, it feels like betrayal. Things come to a head when Philotas, one of your top generals, gets accused of plotting against you. Whether he's guilty or not, you have him executed. Then, just to be safe, you have his father, Parmenion, your dad's old right-hand man, killed too. The message is clear. Loyalty isn't optional. Despite the drama, you press on. By 327 BCE, you're in Bactria, where you meet Roxana, a local princess. She's beautiful, and you marry her. Sure, it's romantic, but it's also a political move to secure the region. Your men aren't thrilled, but what else is new? Next, you set your sights on India. This is uncharted territory for you and your army, but you're determined to push the boundaries of your empire. You cross the Hindu Kush and enter the Indus Valley, where you face tribes like the Aspasioi and the Asakanoi. They don't go down easily. One tribe even has women leading the resistance. You crush them all, but it's a grind. Then comes the Battle of Hydaspes, your toughest fight yet. You're up against King Porus, who has war elephants, giant, unstoppable tanks that your men have never seen before. The battle is brutal. You outsmart Porus by crossing the river at night and attacking from an unexpected angle, but the elephants wreak havoc on your troops. You win, but at a cost. After the battle, you do something unusual. You treat Porus with respect and let him keep his kingdom. Maybe it's because you admire his bravery, or maybe you're just too tired to bother ruling another rebellious territory. But your army? They've had enough. At the Hyphasis River, they mutiny. They're exhausted, homesick, and terrified of the rumors about the massive Nanda Empire further east. Even your most loyal generals, like Conus, beg you to turn back. For the first time in your career, you're forced to listen. You build some altars to mark the easternmost point of your empire and reluctantly order the retreat. The journey back isn't a victory march, it's a death march. Crossing the Gedrosian desert is a disaster. The heat is unbearable. Water is scarce, and people are dropping like flies. By the time you reach Babylon in 324 BCE, your army is a shadow of its former self. But you're not done. You start planning a new campaign to conquer Arabia. Why? Because apparently conquering most of the known world isn't enough for you. By the time you return to Babylon, you've conquered more land than anyone in history. You're at the height of your power, but things are falling apart faster than you can handle. Your body, your army, and your empire are all starting to crack under the pressure. First, your men, the Macedonians who fought by your side for over a decade, now resent you. They've endured endless campaigns, blistering deserts, and your increasingly unpredictable behavior. And then there's the straw that breaks the camel's back, the mass weddings at Susa. You force 80 of your top officers to marry Persian noblewomen in a grand ceremony, symbolizing the union of Greek and Persian cultures. It's a bold political move, but your men see it as yet another betrayal of their identity. Tensions reach a boiling point at Opis, where your Macedonian troops openly revolt. They're angry about you integrating Persian soldiers into your army and treating them as equals. For once, you don't respond with violence. Instead, you isolate yourself, refusing to see anyone until your men beg for forgiveness. It works, but the bond you once shared with your army is irreparably damaged. Your personal life isn't any better. In 324 BCE, your closest companion, Hephaestion, dies suddenly, possibly from typhoid fever. His death hits you like a ton of bricks. You don't just mourn him, you spiral. You hold a massive funeral, declare him a god, and even execute a doctor for failing to save him. Some say Hephaestion was your soulmate, the one person who truly understood you. Without him, you're lost. And then there's your health. Years of heavy drinking, war wounds, and constant stress are catching up to you. People whisper about how much you've changed since the early days. Once a sharp and focused leader, you're now erratic and prone to violent outbursts. When you kill Clytus the Black in a drunken rage, it's clear that something's not right. In 323 BCE, you start planning your next big conquest, Arabia, but you never get the chance to launch it. One night, after a long feast, you fall ill with a high fever. For days, you're bedridden, unable to speak or move. Your generals gather around you, desperate for instructions about who will succeed you, but all you can manage is a cryptic phrase, "to the strongest."